In this video, I will showcase 3 of my favourite cheap M4 builds catered to your level and trader access. The 3 builds in question are 1. The low level build, requiring only level 2 traders. 2. The budget option, for people who have just got access to the flea market or are tight on cash. And 3. The mid-max build, my personal favourite. I'll also show you some small variations of these builds if you've got some extra cash laying around. Right, let's jump into it. First up, the low level build. This is great if you have a bunch of stock M4's laying around, or you need to do tasks and you don't have access to the flea market yet. This build adds a little bit more recoil control and a bunch of ergo. I'm not going to bore you by reading out all the attachments, but I have compiled some handy slides for you, so feel free to pause at any point for the information you're after. Here's a breakdown of all the attachments you'll need to add to the stock M4, which you can get from Peacekeeper for about $500. If money's not your concern and you want to squeeze a little bit more out of your build, you can opt to upgrade the stock and barrel. This build looks really nice, but it will set you back a few extra rubles. As for optics, other long range options are available from Jaeger level 2, such as the Monstrum 2X and the TAC-30 rifle scope, which I do show off on the other 2 builds I have for you. But if you're not sure what they look like, here they are. I don't personally use a reflex sight often, I much prefer a longer range optic. The Monstrum and the TAC-30 are 2 of my favourite scopes in Tarkov, and they also happen to be very accessible early on. Jumping into the budget option now, you only need a max of level 3 traders for this, but I'd recommend getting items on the flea where possible, as you'll tend to find them cheaper there. This is where we really start to see the stat improvements come through. 65 ergo and 65 vertical recoil. Obviously, I've got a slightly more expensive optic on this time, but for the stats you get, I think the price is very reasonable. If you find it cheap on the flea, this compensator is a solid upgrade for the build for a very cheap price. Moving on to the mid-max build now. This is my favourite because the stats are ideal for me. I've used this build and variations of it hundreds of times, and I've gotten used to the way it feels. You don't have to run a suppressor, just like you don't have to run a long range optic like I do. Swap these things out to your own preference and build a gun you like. In my opinion, the cost of this loadout is cheap for the stats you get, so I never really feel bad if I lose it in raid. However, if you want to spend a few extra rubles, I highly recommend trying out the new suppressor they added in this wipe. It drops the vertical recoil down to a whopping 49, and if you can get a good deal on the flea, it should only cost you about 20k extra. There's plenty more upgrades you could do to these builds, but I've tried to keep a conscious effort around price. Try these builds out for yourself and let me know what you think down in the comments. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.